In Chicago, survival has one rule: don't get involved. I learned that at 14 when no one stopped to help me. So for 12 years, I perfected the art of minding my business. Head down, eyes forward, earbuds in, even when they're not playing music. But that night, the alley reeked of gunpowder and blood, and the man slumped against the dumpster didn't look like a monster. He looked like someone the world had already buried. His breathing was shallow, his shirt was soaked black, and when our eyes met, I didn't see a threat. I saw myself at 14, bleeding on the pavement while strangers stepped over me like I was trash. I didn't save Baek Joon-Seok because I thought he'd thank me. I saved him because I remember what it feels like when every passerby decides you're not worth the risk. I used my last $40 on gauze and antibacterial wipes from the corner store, stitched him together with my grandmother's sewing kit under the flicker of a dying streetlight. My hands didn't shake, not once. I've patched myself up enough times to know what steady looks like. When I finished, I left my only umbrella propped against his shoulder and disappeared into the rain. I thought mercy was free. I was wrong. In his world, a life saved is a debt owned. 3 days later, my eviction notice vanished. Just gone. My landlord stopped returning my calls. When I finally tracked him down, he looked at me like I was radioactive and said, "Your rent's been handled. Don't ask questions." A week after that, my boss, who'd been harassing me for 2 years, suddenly retired. No explanation, no goodbye. Just an empty office and a new manager who treats me like I'm untouchable. And then, at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, I woke up to find him standing in my apartment. Baek Joon-Seok, the man I saved, the man I thought I'd never see again. He didn't break in. He had a key. My locks had been changed without my permission, and somehow he was the only one who could open them. He spoke in Korean, low, deliberate, almost a whisper. I don't understand the language, but I understood the tone. Possession. He told me, through a translator on his phone, that I belong to the House of Baek now. That my mercy bought me a permanent place under his protection. That walking away isn't an option because in his world, debts aren't paid. They're honored for life. I thought I was saving a stranger, but the truth is I marked myself as his, and now, the most dangerous man in the Korean underworld has decided that my safety, my freedom, and my future are his to control. I should have walked away that night. But now, there's no way out. If you've ever helped someone and regretted it, you're not alone. Like this video to see what Joon-Seok does next. Subscribe, because a debt to the House of Baek is never truly settled. The first time something disappeared, I thought it was a mistake. My electric bill, 3 months overdue. The kind of debt that comes with disconnection notices printed in red ink and threats to send collectors. I'd been dodging calls for weeks, rationing candles in case the lights went out. Then one morning I logged into my account and the balance was zero. Not pending, not processing, just erased. I called the utility company 4 times. Each time, a different representative told me the same thing in that flat corporate tone that makes your skin crawl. Your account has been settled by a third-party benefactor. No further action required. When I asked who paid it, they said they weren't authorized to disclose that information. I hung up and stared at my phone like it had grown teeth. The second disappearance came 3 days later. My student loan payment, $450 I didn't have, posted as paid in full. Not deferred, not restructured, paid. By someone I'd never met, someone who had access to account numbers I'd never shared. I stopped sleeping after that. Every morning became a scavenger hunt for what had been fixed without my permission. My car registration, renewed. My dentist bill from 2 years ago, cleared. The collections notice from that emergency room visit when I couldn't afford insurance, gone. It felt like drowning in kindness, and I've never trusted kindness I didn't earn. I started keeping a list. Every bill, every debt, every single thing that vanished overnight like someone was playing God with my life. I needed to know the total. I needed to understand the price I'd eventually have to pay because nothing in this world is free. Not for girls like me. By week 2, the number was $11,000. $11,000 I didn't owe anymore. 11,000 reasons to feel grateful, but gratitude tasted like poison. Because whoever was doing this wasn't just paying my bills, they were watching me. They had my social security number, my work schedule, my banking passwords. They knew which debts kept me up at night and which ones I'd given up on entirely. They knew me, and I had no idea who they were. I tried to fight back, changed my passwords, closed old accounts, called my landlord to ask if anyone had contacted him about my lease. He laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Nyla, you're the only tenant I've got who's 3 years ahead on rent. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." 3 years. I'd never paid rent early in my life. That's when I realized this wasn't charity. This was a takeover. Someone was erasing my problems one by one until I had nothing left to run from, until I owed them everything. And the worst part? I still didn't know who was holding the leash. Joon-Seok appears at her favorite diner. He doesn't speak, he just watches her eat. The tension is suffocating. Subscribe to hear his first words to her. The building inspector arrived on a Thursday morning with a clipboard and a face that wouldn't meet mine. He walked through my studio apartment like he was cataloging evidence at a crime scene, tapping walls that had been standing for 60 years, frowning at pipes that had never leaked. "Structural instability," he said, circling something on his paperwork. "Black mold in the ventilation, gas leak risk. This unit's condemned effective immediately." I'd lived here for 4 years. Never once had anything been unstable except my bank account. "You have 48 hours to vacate." I didn't even get to pack my own boxes. 2 men in black suits showed up the next morning with keys I didn't give them and started loading my life into a truck with no company name on the side. When I asked where they were taking my things, one of them handed me an address printed on heavy cardstock, the kind of paper that costs more than my rent. The penthouse was on the 42nd floor of a building I'd only ever seen from the street. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, marble countertops, a bathroom bigger than my old apartment. My furniture looked like garbage in the middle of all that shine. Joon-Seok was waiting in the living room, hands in his pockets, watching the skyline like he owned it. He probably did. "You can't just move me," I said. He turned slowly, and for the first time since that night in the alley, I saw something almost soft in his expression. Almost. "Your building was dangerous," he said in careful English. "You are safer here." "I didn't ask to be safe." "No," he agreed, stepping closer. "You asked for nothing. That is why you will receive everything." He handed me a key on a silver chain. I didn't take it. He set it on the counter between us anyway. I've been yelling at him for 10 minutes straight, about the locks, about my boss, about the way his men follow me to the grocery store like I'm some kind of prisoner, about the fact that he thinks $40 and a sewing kit means he owns me, and Baek Joon-Seok just stands there, silent, watching me like I'm a storm he's studying, not surviving. When I finally run out of breath, he moves, not fast, not aggressive, just inevitable. He crosses the room in 3 strides, and before I can step back, his hand is on my face. Not a caress, a claim. His thumb presses against my jaw, tilting my head up so I can't look away. His palm is warm, rougher than I expected, and the weight of it makes my breath catch. His eyes, those cold, gray eyes that have ordered men to disappear, are locked on mine. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I see something flicker behind them. Not love, not even affection. Hunger. He speaks in Korean, low, controlled. The translator on his phone sits on the table, forgotten. But I don't need it. I understand him perfectly. This is a warning. Then he switches to English. His accent is thick, but every word is chosen with surgical precision. "You think I saved your landlord because I am kind? You think I removed your boss because I am generous?" His thumb moves, tracing the edge of my jaw like he's memorizing it. "No, Nyla. I did it because you are mine now, and no one touches what belongs to me." I try to pull away. He doesn't let me. "I didn't ask for this," I whisper. My voice is steadier than I feel. "You asked the moment you touched me." His hand slides to the back of my neck, fingers threading into my hair, not pulling, just holding. In my world, a life saved is a debt that never ends. You chose mercy. I choose possession. That's not fair. Fair. He almost smiles. Almost. Fairness is a luxury for people who do not survive men like me. You saved a monster, Nyla. Now you live with the consequences. His face is inches from mine. I can feel his breath, smell the faint trace of cologne and gunpowder. My heart is pounding so hard I'm sure he can feel it. What do you want from me? I ask. His grip tightens, not painful, but absolute. Everything. He releases me, steps back, and just like that the heat vanishes, replaced by the cold, controlled kingpin who walks through blood without flinching. He adjusts his cufflinks, straightens his jacket, and walks to the door like he didn't just unravel me with a single touch. Before he leaves, he looks back. Sleep well, Nyla. Tomorrow you meet my family. The door closes, and I realize I'm still holding my breath. The dress arrived at dawn, midnight blue silk that cost more than 6 months of my old rent. No note, just a velvet box and a driver waiting downstairs. Joon-Seok didn't ask if I wanted to go to the gala. He informed me I would be attending. On his arm, in his world. The ballroom glittered like a jewel box, but I felt the weight of every eye on me. Not admiration, calculation. I was the outsider, the American. The woman who didn't belong in a room where power was inherited, not earned. Joon-Seok's hand rested on the small of my back, possessive and warm. He introduced me to men whose smiles didn't reach their eyes, to women who looked at me like I was a stain on expensive fabric. He spoke in Korean, his voice smooth as whiskey, and I caught my name twice. Each time the room shifted, deferred. Then I saw it. A man approached, older, gray-suited, with a scar splitting his left eyebrow. He bowed to Joon-Seok, but his gaze slid to me, lingering too long. Joon-Seok's fingers tightened against my spine. Not enough to hurt, just enough to warn. The man said something in Korean. Joon-Seok's response was ice wrapped in silk. The man paled, bowed lower, and retreated. I didn't need a translator. I understood. Joon-Seok wasn't just protecting me from his enemies. He was protecting me from himself, from the world he built with blood and fear, from men who saw women as collateral. When the music began, he pulled me onto the dance floor without asking. His hand claimed my waist. His eyes held mine, unblinking, unflinching, and for the first time since that rain-soaked alley, I realized the truth. The monster I saved wasn't the man bleeding in the dark. It was the king standing in the light. The gunfire started at midnight. I was in the library when the windows shattered. Joon-Seok's guards moved like shadows, yanking me toward the panic room in the east wing. They didn't explain. They didn't need to. The muzzle flashes outside told me everything. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. The chaos, the distraction. The perfect window to disappear while his empire burned around him. But when I reached the panic room door, I stopped, because through the smoke and the shouting I saw him. Joon-Seok, shoulder bleeding, pressed against the marble column in the main hall, outnumbered, surrounded. His second-in-command was already dead on the floor. I should have run. Every survival instinct I've ever had screamed at me to take the exit and never look back. Instead, I grabbed the guard's gun. He didn't stop me. Maybe he saw something in my eyes that reminded him why Joon-Seok kept me in the first place. I wasn't some helpless trophy. I was the woman who stitched a dying man back together in a rain-soaked alley without flinching. I fired 3 rounds into the chandelier above the rival crew. Glass exploded. They scattered. Joon-Seok's eyes found mine across the wreckage. No gratitude, no relief, just cold, lethal recognition. I'd made my choice. When his men finally cleared the last of the attackers, Joon-Seok walked toward me. Blood dripped from his shoulder onto the white marble. He didn't speak. He just took the gun from my hands, pressed his forehead to mine, and whispered in Korean. His translator later told me what it meant. You are no longer a guest in this house. You are bone of my bone. I didn't save him because I loved him. I saved him because walking away would have haunted me more than staying ever could. I waited 3 months to say it to his face. 3 months of swallowing my rage every time he appeared unannounced. Every time his guards followed me to work. Every time I woke up to find groceries I didn't buy, bills I didn't pay, problems I didn't solve, all handled by invisible hands that smelled like his cologne and control. Tonight, I finally broke. I stormed into his penthouse without permission, past security who didn't dare stop me anymore, and I said the words I'd been rehearsing in my head since the night he changed my locks. I hate you. My voice didn't crack. It came out steady, sharp, like a blade I'd been sharpening for weeks. I wanted it to cut. I wanted him to flinch. He didn't. Joon-Seok stood by the window, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the Chicago skyline like some kind of beautiful, soulless king. He didn't turn around immediately. He let my words hang in the air like smoke, let them settle into the marble floors and expensive silence. When he finally looked at me, his expression was calm. Too calm. I know, he said in that low, deliberate tone that made my skin prickle. I've known for weeks. I laughed. I couldn't help it. A bitter, broken sound that tasted like betrayal. Then why? Why keep doing this? Why follow me, control me, suffocate me if you know I can't stand you? He stepped closer, slowly, like I was something wild he didn't want to spook. His eyes never left mine, and for the first time since I met him, I saw something flicker beneath the ice, something raw and unguarded. Because I don't care if you hate me, Nyla. His voice dropped even lower, barely a whisper, but it filled the entire room. I care that you hate me forever. I froze. What? Hate me, he said again, and this time he was close enough that I could see the faint scar along his jaw, the one I'd stitched in the rain. Hate me every day for the rest of your life. Scream at me. Curse my name. Push me away until your hands bruise. He reached out, not to touch me, but to let his fingers hover just inches from my face, like he was asking permission he'd never needed before. But hate me here, in my city, under my protection, where I can see you breathing and know that no one else will ever make you bleed the way this world did before I found you. I should have slapped him. I should have walked out, but I didn't. Because the most terrifying part wasn't that he was willing to be hated. It was that I wasn't sure I still could. They say the most dangerous woman in any empire is the one the king can't afford to lose. I used to think power meant guns, money, and men who'd kill on command. I was wrong. Power is standing in a room full of armed soldiers and knowing that not one of them would dare touch you. Not because they fear you, but because they fear what he'd do if they tried. 3 months ago, I was invisible. Now I'm the only thing Baek Joon-Seok sees. He calls me his debt, his responsibility, his penance. But I've watched him long enough to know the truth. A man doesn't cancel shipments worth millions because you asked him to reconsider the ethics of human trafficking. A man doesn't dismantle alliances his grandfather built because you said the cost was too high. A man doesn't kneel at your bedside after a nightmare and wait, silent, patient, lethal, until your breathing steadies. Unless you're not his prisoner, unless you're his anchor. I stopped fighting the guards. Stopped plotting escape routes through kitchens and underground tunnels. Not because I've given up, but because I finally understand the game. Joon-Seok doesn't need me to submit. He needs me to stay. And the moment I realized that, everything shifted. Last week, his second-in-command questioned my presence at a strategy meeting. Joon-Seok didn't raise his voice, didn't pull a weapon. He simply looked at the man and said, in Korean, something that made every face in the room go pale. The translator whispered it to me later. She speaks and I listen. You speak, and I decide if you breathe. The man apologized to me. Not to Joon-Seok, to me. That's when I understood. His obsession isn't a cage. It's a crown I never asked for but somehow earned. He handed me the keys to his empire the night I stitched his wounds without asking for his name. I just didn't know it yet. Tonight he's hosting a summit with the heads of 4 rival organizations. Men who've built fortunes on fear, men who don't bow to anyone. And when I walked into that room in a black dress I didn't choose, but he had tailored to fit me like armor, every single one of them stood. Not for him, for me. Joon-Seok didn't smile. He never does. But his hand found the small of my back. And in that touch, I felt the truth he'll never say aloud. I'm not his weakness. I'm his strategy. The proof that even the coldest king can be civilized by the right kind of force. I don't love him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I've accepted something far more dangerous. I've accepted that in trying to own me, Baek Joon-Seok gave me the only thing he never gave anyone else: control. He may have claimed me as his. But I've become the only person alive who can command him. And in his world, that makes me more than his obsession. It makes me his empress. The debt isn't settled. It never will be. Because the woman who saved a monster didn't just survive his world. She learned to rule it from the shadows, one quiet command at a time. And gods help anyone who forgets that. If you believe a woman can turn a king's obsession into her own empire, like this video, subscribe to witness more of Nyla makes, because in the house of Baek, the real power belongs to the one he can't live without.